Morning light spills across a ribbon of prairie, and just beyond the goldenrod, the Mississippi River widens into a quiet sheet of water. This is Spring Lake Park Reserve, 1,000 acres of bluff-top grassland on the edge of one of the great rivers of the continent. Come walk it with me. We are in Dakota County, Minnesota, on the bluffs above the Mississippi near the old townsite of Ninninger, a short drive upriver from Hastings. Here the river is not a narrow channel. It spreads into a broad, marshy backwater the maps call Spring Lake, cradled between wooded bluffs that rise more than 100 feet above the water. The path underfoot is the Mississippi River Regional Trail, a paved corridor that threads the reserve along the bluff. On an early September morning, the prairie is at its peak, shoulder-high stalks nodding with seed, and the whole valley feels like it belongs to the birds and the wind. The valley itself is a work of deep time. As the last glaciers melted, a torrent called Glacial River Warren drained an enormous ice age lake and poured down this corridor, carving a valley far wider than the modern river needs. What we see today is a small stream living inside a giant's trench, and the high bluffs of Spring Lake are the old cut banks of that vanished flood. Spring Lake is not really a lake at all. It is the Mississippi itself, slowed and spread wide behind a dam downstream, flooding old sloughs and side channels into a shining maze of open water, cattail, and wet meadow. It is shallow, alive with fish and waterfowl, and it gives the reserve its name. The water sits this high because of Lock and Dam No. 2 at Hastings, completed in 1930 as part of the great effort to give the upper Mississippi a 9-foot navigation channel. When the gates closed, the river backed up behind them and broadened into the pool we now call Spring Lake, a working river and a wild one, held in the same breath. Much of this grassland is not wild leftover, but patient repair. For decades, Dakota County has been rebuilding native prairie here, seeding hundreds of species back into worn-out farm ground, so that big bluestem, coneflower, and late-blooming goldenrod once again ripple across the bluff. It is one of the larger prairie restorations in the metro region. Between the open grass stand scattered, wide-crowned bur oaks, the signature of oak savanna, a landscape that is half prairie and half woodland. For thousands of years, this country was shaped by fire, much of it set deliberately by people, which kept the brush down and the oaks spaced like orchard trees. Today, prescribed burns do that ancient work again. This is Dakota land. To the Mdewakanton Dakota, the Mississippi is Haha-Wakpa, the river of the falls, and these bluffs and backwaters were homeland long before any survey line crossed them, a place of fishing camps, wild rice, and villages set where the river gave the most. The whole country carries a Dakota name, Mni Makos, the land where the waters reflect the skies. In 1851, in the Treaties of Traverse des Sioux and Mendota, the Dakota were pressured to cede nearly all of southern Minnesota, tens of millions of acres, for promises that were slow to come and quickly broken. Within a few short years, these bluffs, walked and tended for countless generations, were opened to newcomers and platted into farms and dreamed of towns. People have lived along these bluffs for a very long time. Archaeologists working the Spring Lake shore have traced human presence back thousands of years, and earthen burial mounds still rest quietly on high ground above the river. Walk gently here. The view that stops us today stopped people who stood on this same ground 100 generations ago. Just west of the reserve once stood Ninninger, a boomtown platted in the frenzy of the 1850s and meant to rival St. Paul itself. Its great promoter was Ignatius Donnelly, later a Minnesota congressman and famous writer of strange, sweeping books. Then the financial panic of 1857 struck, the settlers drifted away, and Ninninger melted back into farm fields and prairie, a city that was mostly a dream. The heart of the reserve is Schaar's Bluff, a grassy headland where the land simply ends and the Mississippi Valley opens beneath you for miles. Oak shade, a stone edge, and that enormous view of water and floodplain forest. It is the kind of overlook that makes you lower your voice. These backwaters are a rest stop on the Mississippi Flyway, the great aerial highway that funnels millions of migrating birds down the spine of the continent each year. Bald eagles hunt the open water, herons stalk the shallows, and in spring and fall the sky over Spring Lake fills with ducks and geese following the river south. The trail curves back through the grass, and other walkers pass with a nod, out for the same simple thing, a morning beside a big river. Restored prairie on one hand, a flooded valley on the other, and a history layered so deep it disappears into the ground. Spring Lake Park Reserve is a place that rewards slowing down, a bluff where geology, a nation's homeland, a vanished boomtown, and a patiently rebuilt prairie all share the same view of the Mississippi. Thanks for walking it with me. If this journey moved you, subscribe and come along on the next one.